Hi everyone, so today I've got a really exciting video because I got this in the mail today. It finally arrived. I ordered it pretty much as soon as it launched, if not very soon after. It is beautiful and it reminds me of the Gemini palette, and that is pretty much why I got it, because I think this is a gorgeous color scheme. Really love the kind of antique-y yellowy greens. I wanted to test out how similar this was to this, which is why today I am wearing both of these on my eyes. Can you guess which side is which? Let me know before you watch the rest of the video. So yeah, if you want to see how these pit up against each other, then you know what to do. Just keep watching. So today is an exciting day because I finally got my hands on this palette. I ordered it almost a month ago and it just arrived probably about 3 weeks. Which, I mean, I feel like everything takes a long time to get to Australia, but super excited because this palette is so gorgeous. This color scheme of this really speaks to me. It really reminds me of the Gemini palette from Melt, to be honest. There are shades in here that look exactly the same, and I am curious as to how they pit up against each other. So I'm gonna probably use this one on one side and the other one on the other side and just see how close they come, because as much as I love my Melt Gemini palette, this palette is definitely not a perfect palette. As you can see with the shimmers, they're super delicate. The shimmer formula, in my opinion, is not ideal. It's very crumbly. I had to kind of press it in with my finger just to make sure it doesn't fall out of the pan. I would definitely not travel with this. So if this palette can kind of do everything that I want this palette to do, then I'd be very happy. Now, I did review their Deep Sea Luster palette, really enjoyed this one, so I wanted to try out their new palettes as well. I did just get this one because I didn't really, the other color schemes didn't really appeal to me all that much. I have to say, as usual, the packaging is beautiful. It did come in a massive, massive box, which I've given to my colleague already because she wanted it. So, you know, this was definitely well insulated. I do think it's over packaged, but it came in one piece, so I was very, very happy. So, like I mentioned, I'm going to pit these up against each other and see which one I prefer, and we'll see how we go, because very similar shades in here, and this one I believe is permanent, whilst the Gemini, if you haven't got it, I don't think it's going to be re-released anytime soon. So like I said, there are shades in here that really remind me of the Gemini palette. They both have a matte black, they both have kind of that dirty olive color, a deeper foresty green, and also this kind of caramelly brown. So I will finger swatch them just to see how they go. I'm gonna start with the black. Black's one of those things that, you know, it seems a little bit pointless to put a black in a palette because everyone has a matte black that they like already. But, so that's Kaleidos, that's Melt. They both super pigmented, but yet to see what they are like on the eyes, so that's that. Next we have Fire OG, which is that swampy green. Melt. And then we've got the one from Kaleidos. I'll put it next to here. Super similar. ET from Kaleidos. And then Leo from Melt. We have Radioactive from the Kaleidos palette, and Lorelei from Melt. They look so similar, so similar. And then the shimmers, Glamora from, I'm gonna have to do it here, Glamora from Kaleidos, and Gold from Melt. Slightly deeper and greener from Melt. And then lastly, we've got Nuclear from Kaleidos, which looks like that. Beautiful yellow gold. And then I guess Gemini would probably be the closest. So this is not a dupe. So that you can see the shimmers are definitely different, but the mattes certainly do look like dupes. I have to say, the formula from Melt feels a lot more smoother to the touch. Or else the Kaleidos mattes do feel a little bit more like they're firmly pressed. Hopefully that means less fallout, because I feel like the Melt one does get quite a bit of fallout. They both get off pretty easily with some micellar water, and I don't see any staining or anything like that, so that's a good sign. So lately I've kind of stopped using primer, but to give them both an equal chance, I am going to use the Urban Decay Primer Potion, just so that there's something to stick onto, because I did remove my makeup just then. Okay, so I want to use pretty much all the shades in this palette, so we're going to try that. I'm going to take whatever brush I have here. This is a Hakuhodo brush, B142. Going to take the shade Radioactive. So it does come with a name slip. That's how I know the names. But I do kind of wish it was written there. I mean, for the purposes of YouTube, it helps. But if you are, you know, a consumer and you don't care about the names, which I probably wouldn't if I didn't have a channel, then it doesn't really matter. I'm going to do the Kaleidos Cosmetics on this side and Melt on that side. So taking that shade Radioactive and putting it into the crease. Going on a little bit sheer, but definitely building it up seems to be okay. I'm going to put that kind of also towards the inner corner of the eye as well, and outwards a little. Color switch, I'm going to take Lorelei from the Melt and do the exact same thing on this eye. The Melt one is so much more powdery, and I do like, for the most part, Melt mattes, but I do feel like the quality is a little bit different, and I do think that this formula in the palette is different to what they have in the stack. So they're not quite the same. They're looking very similar. I would say this one kind of is leaning towards more mustard, whereas this one's a bit deeper. And hopefully you can see everything with my fringe in the way. Got to get it cut soon, so sorry about that, guys. It's looking pretty rough right now, but I'm going to clean it up later. So yeah, those are the two shades next to each other. On a Crease Pro, I'm going to take the shade ET from Kaleidos. I'm going to put that underneath that shade. I have not planned my look, by the way. It's just random placements of color. Very pigmented, nice and swampy green. And again, just taking that off with a color switch and putting on Leo from Melt. I definitely feel like Leo is easier to blend than ET. And now that I see them on my eyes, I definitely feel like there is a slight color difference. It's not super obvious. Okay, I'm gonna go in with Smog, which is the lighter matte green, and put that in the inner crease area. And then taking Fire OG from Melt on the other side in the exact same area. Fire OG is actually going on darker than I expected. Okay, I think that's looking sufficiently swampy. Let's see how the black goes and kind of smudge it on the outer V. I'm using a smudger one from Sonia G. Very pigmented black. I'm going to kind of do also a slight, just that slight wing. You know what, I'm just going to, whatever's residual, just put it over the mobile lid. Just to give the metallic something to go over. Just to make it a little bit more strong. So you really don't need very much of this black. It does go a long way. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing with Bonnie, which is the matte black from the Melt. Melt does already have a black in one of their stacks, and I have to say I do really like that black. I think it's a really good matte black. And I would have to say this also kind of doesn't sheer out as much to a grey compared to the one from Kaleidos. So I've got Glamora and Nuclear, which are the two metallics from the Kaleidos Cosmetic Palette. I'm going to use both of them. And I've got golds and Gemini. So I'm going to do kind of like a halo-ish type thing. So a bit of glitter glue. Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to try and use without. No glitter glue. I just want to see how it goes without it. I'm going to apply it with this Linda Hallberg brush. I'm going to take Glamora, which is that metallic olive green, antique green. It's actually beautiful. Love this shade. So just over the black. Ooh, tons of fallout. Without a wet brush or any glitter glue, this is pretty metallic, so I'm pretty happy with that. I'm not going to cover completely the black, and then I'm going to take golds on the other side. This metallic shade, it does not pick up very well with a brush. Can you see that? Like, I'm not getting very much, which is why I feel like the metallics in the palette are such a fail. No, I'm going to use my finger instead, because it's really, I'm not getting very much pigmentation at all with the brush. That's probably as good as it's gonna get with the one from Melt. I'm not very impressed with that shade. And then I'm gonna take a bit of Nuclear on the center. This is the yellow gold. Similarly, I'm gonna take Gemini. Now this is not a dupe. Nuclear and Gemini are quite different. Gemini is definitely more on that kind of, I don't know what this is, a coppery type of shade. Again, just doesn't pack well with a brush, or at least not, it's not a wet brush, it's a dry brush. I'm not going to wet my brush, I'm just going to use my finger. Yeah, I really just do not like these metallics from Melt. There's just an issue with them. And I think overall, I've always preferred Melt's matte formula. I just think that their shimmers are just too softly pressed. The shimmers from Kaleidos are so much more pigmented, and you don't need to use a wet brush or a glitter glue to get this kind of pigmentation from them, which I think is great. I'm going to run some of that brown. This is Lorelei, and I'm taking Radioactive on the other side. I will layer a bit of Leo and then ET from the Kaleidos conveyor. I'll go with the Kaleidos first. This is ET, this is the deepest matte green, and then Leo on the other side. And I'm actually also going to go in with a little bit of the black from each palette, just on the edge. So Dark Side, which is the one from Kaleidos, and connect it where the outer V is here. And then Bonnie from Melt. You have to be very careful. This is a very pigmented black, as you can see. I'm gonna smudge it out a bit. I'm going to go back in with more of the black from the Kaleidos as well, just to even it out. Okay, so I think these wings look sufficiently similar. Going to go again back in with Radioactive up here and Lorelei up here. So I'm going to clean up with a Q-tip and a bit of concealer, because right now a lot of fallout. So the rest of my makeup is done. Just put some mascara on, tight lined at the top, and added this lip gloss. This is the Suqqu lip gloss in Milk Tea Beige. Love it. And yeah, just clean it up underneath so it's not as dark and swampy looking, because these shades, I think if you don't, you know, keep that under eye really bright, it can look really dark and a little bit tired. So this side is Kaleidos, this side is Melt Gemini. I honestly think they look very, very, very similar. The main difference that you could probably see straight away is that the metallics from Kaleidos are so much more pigmented and rich. The ones from Melt are just little lackluster, to be honest. If you didn't get your hands on the Gemini palette, I honestly think that this is a really good dupe for it, because honestly, on my eyes, they look so similar. They basically look like I used the same palette. So I will have to say, there are some shades that I prefer in the Melt palette over the Kaleidos one, like the black. I think the black is a bit better. It's more pigmented, it blends a bit more easily, and I do think that the mattes as well in here are slightly more easy to blend versus these. These I just had to, you know, work it in a little bit more, but I mean, not too much trouble. But I have to say that the metallics from the Kaleidos palette are so much better than the ones from the Gemini palette. The Gemini palette, honestly, I don't really need any more shimmers from Melt because I don't think that they're very good. They're super crumbly. You can't really get a really foiled effect unless you use your finger or maybe a glitter glue or something like that. But under the same conditions, I think the Melt ones just did not perform as well as the Kaleidos metallics. So it's up to you to kind of judge which side you do prefer better. So that is the comparison of the Kaleidos Sci-Fi green versus the Gemini. Hope you found this useful in case you were thinking about picking up the Kaleidos one. I really do think it is a very good dupe for the Gemini palette. Anyway, let me know what you think about how each of them performed. Do you think this one looks better or that one? Or do you think they look exactly the same? And if you've bought the Sci-Fi green palette or any of the other palettes, let me know your thoughts as well. I'm really interested to hear how other people have been enjoying them. So far, I've been really impressed with Kaleidos. I'm really excited to see what they bring out in the future. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.